Bill was pensively going through the papers on his desk. The financial results of the company he ran together with his partner were promising. He and Samuel had succeeded in creating and developing their business. They had worked so hard for so many sleepless nights, so many months without a day off, and they had managed to improve the most complex departments in their company. But they didn't want to stop there. They realized that they had to work hard while they were young and full of energy. But Bill was such a person that once he achieved something, he started looking for new activities. And now he decided to try to enter the restaurant business. He began to explore the nuances of different national cuisines, look at the interiors of the best restaurants, and examine business plans and successful projects in this industry. Of course, he would not just leave his existing business, because it was mostly his money that was invested in it. But Samuel turned out to be quite a successful partner. Besides, Bill hasn't come up with any new ideas lately, so it would be right to transfer the established business to his friend, offering to purchase his share. Samuel can keep developing this promising company, but Bill will start a new business. After all, money is made to invest in something new and get a new financial result. Bill finally decided to talk about it to his partner. Samuel listened intently to Bill's offer, hesitated for a moment, and then said, "I'm a little upset about it. But to be honest, I expected it. I know you can't live a quiet life. You always need something new. Your diligence and energy would be enough for 3 average managers. What are you going to do now?" I was interested in the restaurant business. I'm currently exploring this industry. By the way, if you have any interesting information on running restaurants, I'd appreciate it. The restaurant business is very attractive but very risky. But I know you can't imagine your life without risk. If I come across any interesting offers, I'll let you know. Samuel got up from the table and said goodbye to his friend, but Bill only nodded silently. He was already thinking about his new idea. Samuel knew that aloof and at the same time confident look of his close friend and partner. This look usually occurred when he was exploring a new idea, and it meant only one thing. Now, no matter what Bill was doing, he would be thinking only about the new goal, looking for new ideas, thinking about options and possible combinations. How can he come up with so many ideas? I work so hard, but I can only develop the business that already exists. And Bill has a new idea again. How am I supposed to run a business on my own? Should I close the business and get a job at some big company again? No, don't even think about it. Samuel, you are not a genius, but you are not a stupid manual. Am I envious of Bill? Maybe. But why would I envy him if I could use him instead? Very soon, Samuel prepared an interesting offer for Bill. About a week later, they already had a meeting, and Samuel told him about the new commercial offer. The restaurant is located downtown. It's small but quite cozy. The building is very old, so the atmosphere is unusual and interesting. The building has been renovated recently, but you'll have to think about the interior yourself. I think it's a perfect combination of a crowded place in the heart of the city and decent customers. And the price is reasonable, but I think we can still negotiate a lower price. Remind me, what's the name of this place? Paradise. Sounds terrible. Anyway, I can change the name and the interior. The price is really affordable. I think I should come there as a customer. Let's see if I feel like I'm in a luxury restaurant there. Thanks for the information. You've intrigued me. When Samuel left, Bill continued to think about the restaurant and chewed on his pencil out of habit. Is this place really as luxurious as it seems? Paradise. Why do I have a feeling that something is wrong? I don't understand. What makes me suspicious? Perhaps the fact that Samuel was unhappy that I was going out of business and he offered to buy this particular restaurant so quickly. Or is it because the price seems too low? I mean, it's in the heart of the city. I don't know. All I know is that I feel like something is wrong, and my intuition never lies. But what am I supposed to do? I'm sure that outwardly the restaurant is flawless, But how do I know what's going on inside this tricky business? I think a masquerade will help me figure it all out. A random, unattractive customer has a better chance of finding out the truth about the restaurant than a person who wants to buy it. Well, no offense, Samuel, but my grandfather always told me that when you trust people, you should still check their word. The next day, a guy in shabby jeans, tattered sneakers, and a plaid shirt opened the massive door of a fancy restaurant and hesitantly headed inside. But a vigilant manager immediately blocked his way and said, "Hey, where are you going? I think you've got the wrong door. You can't even afford a cup of tea here." The guy grinned and said, "I was walking down the street and suddenly noticed how beautiful this place is. So I decided to visit this wonderful place. Just once in my life. I'd really like to see where rich people have fun and eat. But don't think too badly of me. I'm a law-abiding manual. I can even take out the trash or mop the floor here. Just let me see this beauty." "Mister," the manager tried to be polite, but he was bad at it. "This isn't a museum. We don't offer excursions here, and we have qualified staff to do the job. This is not a museum and not an employment service. So please leave the restaurant before I call the security service." "Why are you so angry?" The guy wasn't going to leave. "Didn't your mom love you when you were a kid? I'm not going to ruin the reputation of this place. It's morning. The restaurant is empty. There are no customers. And you have the opportunity to make a person happy. I'll only be in the restaurant for 5 minutes. It won't hurt anyone. Please let me in. I'll look at everything quickly and leave." "Listen to me," the manager said angrily. "If you don't leave right now, I'll kick you out." "Wait." The kitchen worker suddenly interrupted him. "He can actually help us out. We need to take a pot off the stove and put it on the table to clean it. Because Mark has gone somewhere, and there are no other men in the kitchen right now. Let him in. Just for a minute. He will help me, and I will work him out myself. Please, the pot is too heavy." "All right, Joanna. I will let him in, but only because you asked me to," the manager said, calming down a little. "But it has to be done very quickly, and most importantly, I don't want to see him in the restaurant lounge. If David sees him, we'll all lose our bonuses. Come with me, quickly," Joanna said and resolutely took the boy by the arm. "If you'll help me, you can look at the restaurant lounge from the kitchen." "But I don't want to look at the restaurant from the kitchen," Bill thought, following the girl. "You are very kind, sweet Joanna, and I will reward you for that when I become the owner of this place. But before I sign all the papers, I need to understand how everything works here. So I have to install a small video camera in the corner. When I become the owner of this restaurant, I'll compensate you for all the trouble I've caused. Because sympathy is very valuable and rare in our cynical times." The pot in the kitchen was really heavy. Bill mentally thanked his coach, who didn't let him relax at the gym. He told him that even now, in the time of total digitalization, physical strength would come in handy for a man. And he was right. Mark should be grateful to Bill because he would probably have hurt his back lifting such a heavy pot. Joanna began to clean the pot, while Bill began to examine the restaurant lounge, thinking about where he could place the camera, and at the same time thinking about how he could change the interior of this place. This Victorian design with bright ornaments on the walls and numerous decorations seemed to him too pompous, although, right now, that interior was an advantage for him. It would be easy to hide a camera among those paintings and lamps. Finally, he found a place where he could install the camera. A painting depicting a scene from a Shakespeare book was the perfect place. Not only lounge zone would be visible there, but also the doors from where the employees enter the lounge. So the strange guy in the shabby jeans suddenly walked quickly into the lounge zone and stopped in front of this painting. He started saying something quietly and stroking it with his hands. "Who the hell is this bum?" Bill heard a loud scream in the empty restaurant hall. "I guess it's David," Bill thought sadly. Now Joanna will lose her bonus because of me. Two security guards quickly came in, took Bill by the arms, and dragged him towards the exit. But the man was calm, for the goal had been accomplished. A small hidden camera was placed above the painting. I hope they don't push me too hard so I don't break any bones when I fall. Bill fought, but the security officers pushed Bill so hard that he fell onto the pavement face down. If it weren't for the exhausting workouts, the staff at this restaurant would have knocked out all my teeth by now, and I'd be going to the hospital with a broken nose. He fought as he waited for the security staff to leave for the restaurant. I'd better stay lying on the pavement. Let them get nervous. Bill fought, but the man didn't have time to lie on the pavement. He heard heels tapping on the road, and a woman's hand gently touched his shoulder. What happened? Can you stand up? A frightened Joanna was standing in front of him with some bag in her hands. It's not that easy to kill me. Bill smiled and sat down on the pavement. I'm sorry. You will probably lose your bonus and get scolded because of me. No one will scold me. I do the work of 3 employees, and if they fire me, they'll have to hire at least 2 people. But they're greedy, and they realize it's not profitable for them. Here, take it. I put some food from the restaurant menu in a bag for you. I think that if you have had a chance to see the restaurant, you should try the food cooked there as well. With those words, the girl handed Bill the bag and came back to the restaurant. Bill remained sitting on the pavement with the bag, smiling and looking at her. What a wonderful girl. Would Christina risk anything for me in a difficult situation? Oh, by the way, I should call Christina and invite her to dinner. She's a cranky girl and loves attention. And I almost forgot about her because of this restaurant. Wow. Joanna gave me such a delicious cake. The dinner went splendidly. Christina was surprisingly friendly. The wine was good, and the night was warm. In the morning, a satisfied Bill continued to work on his new idea, watching the video from the camera he had installed. He was impressed with the cleanliness of the restaurant. The staff was great. All the employees were attentive to the customers. However, there were very few customers in the restaurant, especially young people. That's not surprising. Such an interior does not attract the younger generation. Bill would have to change the concept of the place and make it more modern, but he'll be sure to keep this brilliant cake on the menu. Suddenly he saw something that made him feel sick. He didn't want to believe his eyes, so he looked closer. He wasn't wrong. Samuel and Christina were sitting at one of the tables in the restaurant, talking casually. David walked up to them and greeted the couple cheerfully. It looked like a meeting of old friends. What happened next was even more interesting. While waiting for the order that David brought them, Samuel gently took Christina's hand. The girl tilted her head toward the man and began to flirt with him. Hidden cameras can reveal so many secrets. Even without sound, Bill found out so many new things. Great job, Christina. She managed to date 2 men at once. Although Samuel would never agree to be someone's second lover. What were they up to? Bill got very nervous and couldn't concentrate. It was so cliché, the ungrateful friend and the unfaithful fiancé. He wanted to spit in their faces, fight with Samuel, and pour wine on Christina's dress. But he needed to focus and try to understand how they were trying to deceive Bill. But how can he control his emotions tomorrow at the office? Bill wanted to hit Samuel in the face, but he needed to pretend like he didn't know anything. The next day was very stressful for Bill. It is not difficult to communicate with a business partner in a relaxed and sincere manner, but it's not easy to try not to show your suspicions and disappointment. Besides, Samuel immediately began to ask about the new business. Bill, what have you decided about the restaurant? Are you ready to sign the papers? Or are you still thinking? I'm still thinking. Bill replied carelessly and began scrutinizing invoices and financial reports. By the evening, he was exhausted. Luckily, Christina had gone to a party with her friends, and he wouldn't have to pretend to be calm. But it was very difficult to hide his emotions because he was not used to being deceived by the closest people. his fiancée and friend. Samuel came home frustrated. 2. He realized that Bill was postponing the purchase of the restaurant, sensing a deception. His intuition was excellent. It had helped them many times in their difficult business. Or maybe he'd seen him with Christina somewhere. This unpredictable girl has never wanted to avoid places where they could meet mutual friends. She is beautiful but very cunning. Does Bill really love her, or does he have the same mixed feelings for her? Anyway, suspicion won't do any good. Samuel realized he had to save the situation somehow. A few days later, Samuel invited Bill to have lunch together. You know, Christina and I recently had dinner together at a restaurant. I'm very grateful to you for treating her that way. We don't see each other very often lately, but she and I were very close when we were kids. Bill almost choked on his pizza. So you two know each other? Why didn't you tell me about this before? Well, she's my cousin. We grew up in the same neighborhood. I didn't mention it because I didn't want personal relationships to get in the way of our business. She doesn't know you're my partner either. Christina is unpredictable and too emotional, and if anything were wrong, it could ruin our business. And as long as she doesn't know we're partners, she won't be able to use our friendship for her own purposes. Bill felt a lot better after that conversation. Samuel turned out to be smarter than Bill had expected. And Christina was really unpredictable. It was a good thing she didn't know they were business partners. Bill knew that Samuel had a cousin, with whom he grew up together, and was very friendly. But her name was never mentioned in the conversation. Now, their visit to the restaurant together had a logical explanation. Bill felt great. Now he had a lot of energy. He finally had it all figured out. Thoughts about the restaurant never left Bill's head, but now he had no doubts. And he really missed Christina. So, first of all, he should talk to David. He would hardly recognize that strange man in shabby jeans in him. Bill was ready to sign the necessary papers. After that, he will invite Christina to dinner. After all, life becomes boring without a beloved woman. This time, David was very polite, even in spite of his stern appearance. He set the table in his office and offered Bill to try the best delicacies of the restaurant. The waitress was bringing the drinks. It was Joanna. Neither Joanna nor David recognized Bill. After negotiations, David agreed to lower the price. He and Bill shook hands and set a date for the deal. Bill happily headed for the exit, anticipating a meeting with Christina. But Joanna suddenly stopped him in the hallway and tugged him by the sleeve of his jacket to take him aside. Worriedly, she said, "Don't buy this restaurant. Please." "Why shouldn't I buy it? I'm a kind person. I won't offend the staff." Bill tried to joke. "Exactly because you're a kind person. Don't buy it," Joanna said confidently. David is a man with a dark past, and he's not always fair in business. Recently, a man came to visit him. I brought food and drinks and heard part of their conversation about the option of getting paid twice for the restaurant. I don't really understand the legal details, but the bottom line is that the restaurant is insured for a huge amount of money in case of a fire or natural disaster. After you sign the papers and pay, there will be a short period of time while the paperwork is being re-registered, and the restaurant is still owned by the previous owner. If there is a fire in the restaurant at that moment, he will automatically receive an insurance payment in addition to the money you pay him. But you will get nothing in this case. Do you often tell the other people's secrets?" The surprised man asked. "No," Joanna said, blushing. "You seem like a decent man. I just don't want that disgusting scumbag to trick you." "I'm sorry. It was a bad joke." Bill gently shook the girl's hand. "I'm going to buy this restaurant anyway. I've already paid the deposit, but I'll never forget your help." A cold wind blew in his face and distracted the man a little from his negative thoughts. It turned out that these people had almost managed to trick him. He had already convinced himself many times that if he felt that something was wrong with a deal, he should look for the reason. Joanna is a nice girl. She's very honest, and she's not afraid to tell the truth. That's a rare quality in people these days. Bill realized that he had to stop communicating with Samuel and Christina. It was frustrating, but there was no choice. If he continued to communicate with such people, they would surely try to trick him again. His cell phone rang in his pocket, and Christina's number appeared on the screen. "Hello, my love. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I have to cancel our meeting today. I'm getting ready for a big deal that will change our lives. But I have to work all night tonight. I realize you bought a new dress and had your hair done at the beauty salon, but I really need to get ready for the deal. Well, you have a lot of friends. Go out with them." "Christina, calm down. You're screaming so loudly that I can't understand what you're saying anyway. I'm sorry. I can't talk anymore. I'm driving." Bill disconnected the call and dialed Samuel's number, not wanting to listen to Christina's yelling. "Hi, Samuel. David and I have a deal planned. Tomorrow I need the rest of the money. Can you pay me my share for my part of the business today?" "Great. I always knew I could trust you." On the day of the deal, Bill was as calm as professional boxers before a fight. In the morning, he picked up David, and they drove together to the notary. Before they got there, Bill braked sharply, looked at David and said, "David, I know the restaurant is insured for a large sum of money. I've been warned by lawyers that in such situations, there can be machinations involving damage to the property in order to obtain an insurance payout while the property is being re-registered. I don't suspect you of anything like that, but if you can't secure the restaurant before I become the owner, then you'd better give me back the deposit in double the amount, as it is supposed to be in such cases. Because even if a single window breaks, I'll file a report at the police." "So what are we going to do?" David clenched his fists, the huge veins visible on his neck. He didn't look at Bill. His sad gaze was fixed on the windshield of the car. After a moment's pause, he shuddered and said, "Let's go to the notary. The restaurant will be fine. I can't pay back the double deposit right now." The next day, Bill was already working in his new office. The figure of a bronze lion, a stuffed owl, and carved backgammon boards went straight to the trash. Instead, a copy of the First Globe, a reproduction of Conji's painting, and a cage with canaries appeared in his office. Then he asked for the CVs of all the restaurant staff and immersed himself in reviewing them. After lunch, Samuel showed up to congratulate his friend on the successful acquisition of the restaurant. Samuel looked a little pale. Bill asked Joanna to bring them coffee and turned to his ex-friend. "Come in, have a seat. Did you come to talk about business or about something else?" "I actually came for advice. You know, I've never run a business on my own, and I'd like to come to you for advice sometimes." Bill didn't have time to respond to Samuel. Joanna entered the office with 2 cups of coffee, but when she saw Samuel, she flinched and almost spilled the coffee. Samuel, seeing the girl, became upset, and then a defiant look appeared on his face. "I see you two know each other," Bill noted, took the coffee, let Joanna go, and turned to Samuel. "Samuel, no need to make a surprised face. We will never be friends again. But tell me, why did you decide to betray me? Maybe you didn't consider me a friend, but I was your partner. I helped you solve all your problems, and even offered you to buy my share of the business at a low price. If you remember, my contribution to the authorized capital was much higher than yours, and you're not even ashamed to sleep with my girlfriend, pretending she's your cousin. By the way, I found out that your cousin's name was Susie, but she died a year ago of peritonitis." Samuel's cheek began to twitch, and he sputtered his coffee. "You never considered me a partner. You considered me a servant. All the achievements in our business have always belonged to you alone. You always acted like I was stupid and didn't know how to do anything. You were always the one who came up with all the ideas. We always listened to your intuition and applied your out-of-the-box solutions. Why do I even have to explain anything to you? Yes, I'm sleeping with your girlfriend, but that's all you can accuse me of. You're so arrogant." Samuel stood up abruptly, ignoring the coffee stains on his light-colored pants, and walked out of the office, slamming the door loudly. Well, I hope Christina won't come to me after finding out about this conversation. Bill thought sadly and summoned Joanna to his office again. The girl entered the office, confused and not understanding what her new boss wanted. "Please have a seat," Bill said calmly. "Do you mind if I ask you some questions?" "Ask anything you want. I don't mind," the girl replied, shrugging her shoulders. "The man who was in my office just now, was he the one who discussed with David the terms of the deal you warned me about?" "Don't worry. This information is for personal purposes only. You have nothing to fear. This man is my former business partner. No one will know about it. It could damage the reputation of the restaurant." "Yes, it was him. I have one more question." Bill paused, trying to find the right words. "Why apologize for being so brazen and asking about your personal life? But it seemed to me that this wasn't the first time you've seen each other. This is not just ordinary curiosity. Now I have to understand what risks I might face, and which employees I can trust and which I can't. I would appreciate it if you would answer that question honestly." "Yes, I used to know him, but it was a long time ago," Joanna said sadly, trying to hold back tears. "But it had nothing to do with the restaurant. It was a long time ago, 8 years ago, when I was still a student. We dated for a while, but then we broke up. I hadn't seen him in years, but I immediately recognized him when he showed up at our restaurant. Thank you for your sincerity. You've helped me a lot. If this man tries to get in contact with you, offer you money, blackmail you, or intimidate you, let me know. Together, we will solve this problem. Deal?" Joanna nodded silently and headed for the kitchen, swallowing her tears. "Samuel, you're ruining everything around you," Bill thought annoyingly, and began studying the restaurant's paperwork. The next few months at the restaurant were very stressful. Bill decided to change the Victorian style to a colonial style. It helped minimize the cost of changing the concept. Wallpaper was repainted in the color of dry grass. Lamps and oak chairs were donated to various institutions, and compositions with exotic plants took their place. The restaurant got rattan furniture and a huge cage with a talking parrot. Bill changed the name of the restaurant, and the first curious visitors have already shared with locals favorable reviews about the restrained gourmet exoticism, excellent cuisine, and romantic coziness. Bill was constantly in the restaurant. He carefully studied all the CVs and fired unreliable employees, then contacted recruiting agencies to find new employees. The man noticed that Joanna was willing to do any job at any time. He sympathized with the girl who had saved him from being deceived and wondered why she worked so hard. "I urgently need money to pay for Andrew's surgery. He was climbing a tree with the other boys, but he fell down and broke his arm. The bone didn't heal properly, and now he's getting bullied at school all the time. The more time passes, the harder and more expensive it will be to fix it. Work day's over. We need to go," Bill commanded. "Where?" Joanna asked confusedly. "I'd like to meet Andrew," Bill answered confidently, took Joanna's hand, and they walked to the car. After stopping at a supermarket on the way, buying groceries and a red toy race car, they headed to Joanna's apartment. A boy about 7 years old with blonde hair and a piercing gaze ran out of the room. Looking at him, Bill stopped and didn't know what to say, for there was a copy of Samuel looking at him. But with one difference. The boy had sincere blue eyes. Bill crouched down and handed the boy a gift. "This is a gift for you. Take it. I don't know all your hobbies yet, but I hope you like it." The boy jumped excitedly, and Bill looked at Joanna. She continued to look at Bill sadly and a little doomed. "How much does the surgery cost?" the man asked. The amount of money she named was a lot for Joanna, but not for Bill. "Okay, now listen to me. Starting tomorrow, you're on vacation. Get ready for surgery. I'll find out where it can be done properly. I'll pay for everything, no objections." The man said confidently, "We will cure the boy. After the surgery, bring me your university diploma, and we'll find a better position for you. You've had enough of cleaning pots and pans in the kitchen. You'll be fine, I promise." Joanna stood silently looking at Bill, and tears were dripping from her eyes. Those eyes reflected pain, hope, and sincere gratitude. Bill looked into those eyes, and his heart raced. Life is so unpredictable. Now Samuel was left with a hysterical and unfaithful girlfriend, and Bill met Samuel's beautiful, kind, and sincere ex-girlfriend. Bill walked over to Joanna and held her tightly to him. 6 months later, the ex-friend showed up in Bill's life again. He came to his restaurant without calling him beforehand, frustrated and confused. "Help me out, buddy." He turned to his old friend. "I have absolutely no one to turn to. I think I messed everything up again." "What happened?" Bill asked calmly. "I gave you everything you needed. A successful business, a beautiful woman, and experience. What have you messed up?" "You know," Samuel said nervously, "I made a couple of bad deals, then borrowed some money for a new project. But not in a bank, but from reliable people who offered more favorable conditions. But the new project didn't work out either. Now I have no money to pay back. They threatened me. They said they'd kill me and Christina." "Why do you always mess with such people?" Bill replied. "How much money do you owe them?" Bill heard the amount and was silent for a moment. It was a lot of money, but with the right approach, it could be paid back quickly. Besides, he felt sorry for Samuel. Even though he was a sneaky person, everyone deserves another chance. After a few minutes of thinking and calculating, Bill said, "Okay, I'll pay your debt. But you have to give me the business we once built together. Basically, I'll buy your entire business this way. You can start your life all over again. But there's one more condition. You will never show up in my life again. Deal?" Samuel nodded. "Great. Schedule 2 meetings for tomorrow, with the notary and with your partners. Send me the information over the phone." As the door closed behind his ex-friend, Bill picked up the phone and made a call. "Hi Joanna. How are you doing?" "What's Andrew doing?" "Math homework." "Great. It's an important subject. Andrew should become a famous scientist." "No, I was just kidding. You know, Joanna, let the boy get some rest and make our favorite pie for dinner. I'll get the rest of the food from the restaurant. I have a big day tomorrow, and a delicious dinner gives me extraordinary energy. I'm sure we can celebrate the end of tomorrow's day even better. I'll tell you the details at home. Kisses. Hug Andrew for me." Bill ruffled the hair on his head and started thinking about his new business plan.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." "Absolutely right." His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick? What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? Alright, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.